The Curious Adventures of Matisse the Cat. Matisse Tickles Time by Amanda Walsh. Illustrations by Anna Szymanski. Are you ready? Let's take a look. When there's a tickle in my whiskers, I'm off to somewhere new. When there's a rattle in my stripy tail, I'm back in time for Hugh. Come on, Hugh, the Science Museum opens soon.
I'm coming, Mum. Mattise, where are you?
Mattise was in the lounge looking out of the window. It was a bright spring day. The weatherman was on his roof watching the birds.
There you are,
said Hugh as he picked up Mattise.
I'm going to miss you today.
Hugh gave Mattise a big hug. Mattise closed his eyes and gave Hugh a big purr.
I'll see you when I get home,
said Hugh as he placed him gently on the floor.
I'm not sure what I'll do today,
thought Mattise as he sauntered into the kitchen. While he was munching on some crunchies, his eyes sparkled with delight when he noticed the door to the garage was peeking open. He wandered over, placed his paw on the door to give it a gentle nudge, then disappeared inside. Inside the garage, an old classic motorbike stood proud in the center of the room. It had been lovingly restored to its former glory.
Wow! Meow! This looks like lots of fun,
thought Matisse as he scampered over and jumped onto the rider's seat. As he placed his paws on the front handlebars, his whiskers began to tickle a little. The little tickle made him giggle. The more it tickled, the more he giggled. Bong, bong, went the clock on the wall. Cuckoo, cuckoo, sang the bird that popped out of its door. Mattise was startled by the noise and slipped on the bike, which roared into action. Suddenly, Mattise was in the wilderness, and he wasn't alone.
What just happened?
He said, dazed and confused.
Your paw slipped and started the bike when the cuckoo cuckooed.
Who said that? Asked Mattise.
Me,
replied an angry little mouse. I'm up here, he shouted.
Where did you come from?
Asked Mattise.
The same place as you. The garage,
the little mouse yelled. I was on the wheel of this bike, setting the time on my new smartwatch, when thud, 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 went the ground. Matisse and the mouse went silent. They looked at each other with their eyes wide open. Thud, 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 went the ground again. The mouse jumped onto Matisse's back and buried his head in his fur. Stop that, it tickles. Slurp, 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 went the sky, before they were both buried under a mountain of leaves. Matisse and the mouse clambered above the leaves and looked up. A gigantic animal was munching branches of a tree. What's that? The mouse whispered in Matisse's ear.
I have no idea,
he whispered back. Then Matisse spied a large hollow in a tree trunk.
Let's hide in there,
he suggested to the mouse, and they bolted to the hide hole. Inside the hollow was a big boulder. The two friends sat beside each other.
I'm Mattise, and I live with Hugh. Who are you?
I'm Marcus, and I live alone in the garage. As they were peering outside, they began to hear noises coming from inside the boulder. Then cracks began to appear. They looked at each other, then looked down at the boulder. The cracks grew bigger and bigger and wider and wider. Then a huge head popped up in between them. Matisse and Marcus scampered out of the hollow and hid behind the tree trunk. They bravely peeked into the hollow and came face to face with the huge head that was now attached to a huge body. The creature began to open its toothless jaw. Matisse and Marcus gasped in horror. Then a giant tongue popped out and gave Matisse a luscious lick.
Oh, yuck,
groaned Matisse.
Very funny,
remarked Marcus.
but I'd like to go home now.
They ferreted around the leaves and rescued the bike. Matisse jumped on the bike and Marcus jumped on behind him. Pour to ignition, he shouted. The hatchling watched with great interest as the machine roared into action and sped around the countryside. He gave chase, thinking it was the best game ever. Finally, they came to a halt.
Huh? So, we're still here?
Said Marcus. Disappointed with their efforts, he returned his attention to setting the time on his new smartwatch.
Oh no,
shrieked Matisse when he saw a big, ugly creature eyeing up the hatchling with great interest.
Hang on,
Matisse shouted as he zoomed off. He raced directly towards the ugly creature to divert its attention away from the hatchling. At the same time, the big branch-eating animal scooped her baby up to safety. Marcus had nearly finished setting his smartwatch when Matisse bumped over the biggest toes he had ever seen. The bike, Matisse, and Marcus catapulted forward. Suddenly, Matisse and Marcus crashed onto a pavement in a big city like no other.
Wow, I'd love one of those.
Are we home? asked Marcus.
I don't think so,
Matisse said, confused. They were surrounded by things flying, things walking, and things giggling. Things that were giggling at them. They weren't animals. They weren't human, but they did look friendly.
What's so funny?
asked Matisse.
You're not from here, are you?
One said. Hey, you look so old, said the other.
I'm not old,
said Matisse.
You definitely are.
They giggled. What are you? Marcus asked, fascinated.
We're intelligent pets, they said. IPS for short. I'm an intelligent pet cat, and I'm an intelligent pet mouse. We're intelligent too, huffed Matisse. Did this bring you here?
asked the IPS, looking at the crashed motorbike.
Yes,
said Matisse.
But it won't be taking us home,
Marcus said with despair. The two IPS looked at each other. Maybe MacBot can help, they said at the same time and giggled. Who's MacBot? asked Matisse.
He's our mechanic,
said the IP cat as she touched her nose with her paw. Suddenly, MacBot appeared in front of them. But he wasn't real. Marcus couldn't touch him.
He's not here, he's a hologram,
whispered the IP mouse to Marcus. The IP cat explained the situation to MacBot. Scan and send the relic to me, then fly over, he said.
Wow, I'd love one of those.
The IP mouse touched her wrist, pressed her finger with her thumb, and a red laser danced across the crashed motorbike. Then it disappeared. Matisse and Marcus couldn't believe it. Where's it gone? They asked. MacBot's garage, the IP cat replied.
Wow, I'd love one of these.
I'll book a sky car, said the IP mouse. She blinked her eyes 3 times and the sky car arrived. Within seconds they were up high, flying through the sky. Matisse and Marcus marveled at the futuristic world all around them.
Buildings growing into the sky, houses sitting on top of water, and cars flying through the air. Soon the sky car arrived at MacBot's garage.
"Hello, ancient wanderers. Welcome to my garage. That's some relic you arrived on," he said.
"You fixed it. Thank you so much. Now we can go home," said Marcus happily.
I don't know about that,"
said MacBot.
"The motorbike didn't bring you here. Its technology is too old."
"But how did we get here?" asked Marcus and Mattise.
"I really don't know,"
MacBot said. Then he noticed something on Marcus. He crouched down and focused on his wrist.
"Well, what do we have here?"
he said with interest. "That's my new smartwatch," Marcus said with pride.
Really? It doesn't look as ancient as you. Where did you get it from?"
MacBot inquired. "I found it in a box in my garage. It arrived with the motorbike." "We need to take it to Timebot," said IP Cat.
"That's a great idea,"
said MacBot.
"I'll scan the bike and send it to her workshop." "Good luck on your journey, ancient wanderers," he said.
Matisse and Marcus thanked MacBot for all his help. Soon the four friends were flying up high in the sky again. Minutes later, the sky car docked at Timebot's workshop. "Welcome, ancient wanderers. What a surprise to see you in our world today," she said. "You're human," exclaimed Matisse.
"Not really," she said,
as she pulled back the skin on her arm to show off her electronics. "Wow, I'd love one of those." "Wow, you're a robot," exclaimed Marcus.
"I am," confirmed Timebot.
"Now I'm really keen to hear your story," she said. They all went inside and Matisse began to share their adventure. "And Marcus kept fiddling with his smartwatch," laughed Matisse.
"May I see it?"
asked Timebot. Marcus removed the watch and gave it to her. Timebot studied the little watch with great interest. "This is not an ancient human smartwatch," she announced. "It's not?" Marcus said in disbelief. "No, it's a nanobot's time machine," she said. She placed the time machine under a table microscope. Everyone gathered around the table to watch as a tiny screwdriver appeared from her right index finger. "Wow, I'd love one of those." She opened the little door on the side of the machine, pulled out a tiny tray, and revealed an upside-down nanobot. "When Marcus fiddled with the time machine, he activated the nanobot," Timebot said. "The bot was all shook up and couldn't fix a time. This is how you traveled to the time of the dinosaurs, and then into your future, which is our present," she said. "How are we going to get home?" asked a worried Matisse. "Can you make us the time machine?" asked Marcus with glee.
"Unfortunately not," said Timebot. "We can't risk another nanobot getting stranded in your time."
Matisse ran and jumped on the bike. "I've got to get home," he said in a panic.
"Don't worry, Matisse," said Timebot. "I'll search my general intelligence program and see if I can help." Then her eyes began to flicker. "Yes, there is a way you can travel home," she announced. "You need to focus on someone who loves you very much," she said.
"Wow, I'd love one of those." "That's my boy Hugh, and I love him very much," said Matisse. "Nobody loves me," exclaimed a very upset Marcus. "Who would love an old ancient mouse?"
He hollered and began to cry.
"I'd love one of those," the IP mouse shouted out loud. She looked at Timebot, who nodded and agreed he could stay. Marcus gave the IP mouse a big hug. Matisse watched from his seat on the motorbike.
Then he closed his eyes and thought of his boy Hugh. At the same time he heard a familiar sound. It was a strange little rattle in his tail. He chased his tail to catch the rattle. The quicker he chased, the more it rattled. Suddenly his tail stopped rattling. Matisse was back in the garage beside the motorbike. At the same time, the front door swung open and a little boy shouted, "Matisse, I'm home. Where are you?" "There you are," said Hugh as he picked up Matisse. "I've missed you so much." Hugh gave Matisse a big hug. Matisse closed his eyes and gave Hugh a big purr. "I hope you haven't had a boring time without me," said Hugh. It certainly wasn't boring, thought Matisse. I hope you enjoyed this book. And don't forget, be good for Mommy and Daddy. Bye-bye.